The night pulsed with quiet luxury, an unspoken rhythm woven into the soft clinking of crystal glasses and the low hum of conversation. Outside, Manhattan stretched endlessly, its neon veins glowing against the black sky. But inside La Verite, one of the city's most exclusive five-star restaurants, time moved at a different pace. Here, power was not flaunted but implied, wealth not spoken of but understood. Men in bespoke tuxedos lounged in leatherback chairs, their laughter subdued but deliberate, their words measured as they debated politics over imported cigars. Women draped in silk and adorned with diamonds that caught the chandelier's golden light tilted their heads in polite amusement, their manicured fingers tracing the rims of wine glasses filled with something older than most of the servers who poured them. At a corner table, set apart from the excess yet undeniably part of it, Barron Trump sat alone. His presence, though quiet, was undeniable. Shoulders straight, posture composed, the sheer weight of his name casting a shadow long enough to be felt even in a room where fortune was the common denominator. Unlike the hedge fund magnates and media moguls who dined around him, he wasn't indulging in the extravagance that La Verite was known for. No obscenely priced wine at his table, no six-course meal designed more for spectacle than sustenance. He scrolled through his phone, expression impassive, lifting a glass of water to his lips between brief glances at the gilded menu. Tonight was supposed to be simple, a quiet dinner, a moment to himself. He didn't expect the storm that was about to break. A tension that shifted the room across the restaurant, moving between tables with practiced precision. A young black man balanced a tray loaded with bone-in ribeye steaks, caviar-topped hors d'oeuvres, and artfully plated entrees that cost more than he made in a week. His name was Marcus, and while the crisp black and white uniform marked him as a server, it didn't define him. He was not like the people he served. He was not born into ease or comfort. Marcus was a survivor. The Bronx had raised him on struggle, long days and longer nights, juggling construction shifts in the morning and restaurant shifts at night, running on little more than coffee and determination. He had worked twice as hard for half as much, always moving, always pushing forward, never quite catching up. And tonight, his patience, thin as it always was, had worn down to nothing. Then he saw him, table 14, Barron Trump. The name alone made something inside Marcus tighten, a pressure against his ribs that had nothing to do with exhaustion and everything to do with history. The kind written by men who never had to fight for their place at the table. A part of him knew he should keep walking, but something in him snapped. You have no idea what it's like. The glass of water hit the table harder than necessary, the ice inside clinking sharply against the sides. It wasn't enough to be disrespectful, but just enough to be noticed, just enough to carry the weight of something unspoken. Enjoying your meal, sir? Marcus asked, the words soaked in something that wasn't quite hostility, but wasn't politeness either. Barron looked up, his blue eyes steady, taking in the man before him. He nodded unfazed. Thank you. Marcus should have left it at that, but he didn't. He could feel it pressing against his chest, the words, the anger, the exhaustion. And before he could stop himself, they spilled over, his voice low but sharp, cutting through the comfortable hum of the restaurant, laced with something that made the air grow heavy. Must be nice, he said, arms crossing over his chest. Sitting here, eating $100 steak while people like me break our backs just to survive. A ripple of discomfort moved through the room. A wealthy couple by the window hesitated mid-sip of their champagne, their glances flickering toward the tension unraveling at table 14. The maitre d' stiffened near the entrance, his eyes darting between Marcus and Barron, calculating how quickly he might need to intervene. Barron set down his fork, his expression unreadable. His face, sculpted by years of scrutiny, betrayed nothing. Excuse me? The floodgates opened. Marcus leaned forward, his frustration pushing past the invisible boundaries that separated their worlds. His voice, rising now, carried a truth too raw to be ignored. You don't get it, do you? He exhaled sharply, shaking his head. While you're sitting here living off money you didn't even earn, My mom is working 2 jobs just to put food on the table. My cousin, locked up over something a rich kid would get a slap on the wrist for. My best friend, shot in the street for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The words hit the space between them like a challenge, like something that couldn't be taken back. And in that moment, the room wasn't just quiet, it was waiting. A silence that demanded to be heard. And me? Marcus's voice cracked under the weight of everything he had carried for too long. I work 2 jobs, one at a construction site, one in this damn place, just so I don't end up homeless. And for what? To watch people like you act like this is normal? Like life is just this easy? The words didn't just land. They shattered the atmosphere, leaving it fractured and fragile. The restaurant, once a symphony of quiet luxury, fell into a silence so absolute that it felt unnatural. Even the grand piano in the corner, its keys kissed by the hands of a master, seemed to hesitate, as if afraid to intrude. The weight of Marcus's words pressed against every velvet chair, every linen-draped table, every set of wide, uncomfortable eyes. Conversations that had once been effortlessly shallow now hung suspended, unfinished, as if even the wealthiest in the room understood that something real, something raw was unfolding before them. And yet Barron Trump did not flinch. He did not shift uncomfortably in his chair, nor did he scoff, roll his eyes, or dismiss Marcus's pain with the practiced indifference of someone who had never been forced to see beyond his own world. Instead, he listened, truly listened, and when he finally spoke, his voice was so calm, so measured, that it sliced through the charged air with a quiet authority of its own. Marcus, you're right. The room held its breath. Marcus blinked, caught between the inertia of his anger and the unexpected force of those words. It was as if, for the first time, someone had met his fire with something other than defensiveness. His mouth was half open, the next wave of frustration ready to break, but it never did. Barron leaned forward, his hands clasped together on the table, his blue eyes sharp, unwavering. You're right to be frustrated. You're right to feel like the system is stacked against you. Because it is. The words hung there, undeniable, heavy with something Marcus hadn't expected from a man like him. Truth. Barron didn't look away. He didn't stumble over his words or dress them up in empty sympathy. He simply laid them out like unshakable facts carved into stone. I won't pretend I know what it's like to grow up in your world. I won't insult you by saying I've lived your struggle, but don't assume you know mine either. Marcus clenched his jaw, his pride unwilling to let go of the battle so easily. You? Struggle? Barron exhaled, but it wasn't exasperation. It was something quieter, something knowing. He gave a small, almost imperceptible smile. Every time I walk into a room, people already think they know who I am. They don't see me. They see my last name. And because of that, they think I'm their enemy before I even say a word. A new kind of silence filled the space between them, one not of tension, but of realization. For the first time, Marcus didn't have an immediate response. A challenge that changed everything. Barron reached into his jacket pocket, the movement slow, deliberate. He pulled out a neat stack of crisp bills, $500 exactly, and placed it on the table between them, the paper whispering against the linen. Marcus's body stiffened, his pride bristling like a live wire. His voice came out colder now, guarded. I don't need your handout. Barron smirked, not in amusement, but in understanding. It's not a handout, it's a challenge. Marcus narrowed his eyes, suspicion curling in his chest. What kind of challenge? Barron leaned forward, and for the first time, there was something fierce in his expression. Not arrogance, not privilege, but conviction. Tomorrow, instead of being angry, do something with it. Use your voice. Get involved. Run for something. Teach. Mentor. Help others rise with you. Because the people in power don't want us finding common ground. They want us divided. And if you can't see that, then you're letting them win. The words didn't just sit on the table between them like the money. They expanded, filled the room, settled into the minds of everyone who had been listening from behind half-empty glasses of wine and delicate bites of imported delicacies. And for the first time, the silence that followed wasn't awkward. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was thoughtful. Marcus stared down at the money, then up at Barron. And in that moment, for the first time, he didn't see a name. He didn't see a bank account balance or a life of untouchable privilege. He saw a man with something deeper than status, wisdom. The anger that had been building all night, the frustration, the exhaustion, the weight of an entire system pressing down on his shoulders, began to shift. Not disappear, not dissolve, but shift. Because for the first time, he realized he wasn't standing in front of an enemy. He was standing in front of an unexpected challenge. A shift in the air. And in its place, something neither of them had expected. Respect. The weight of it settled between them, unspoken but understood. Marcus exhaled, the tension in his shoulders easing, but not from surrender, from recognition. He looked at Barron, really looked at him, and for the first time he saw beyond the name, beyond the assumptions, beyond the life he had always resented from afar. He swallowed hard, searching for the right words. "You're not what I expected." Barron gave a small, knowing smile. "Neither are you." And in that moment, something changed. The moment that changed everything. At first, it was just a sound, a slow, rhythmic clap breaking the heavy silence. Then another, then another. Until the entire restaurant erupted into applause. Not mocking, not forced, but real. The same people who, just minutes ago, had seen Marcus as a bitter waiter stirring up trouble, now looked at him differently. No longer just a voice of frustration, no longer just a man lashing out at an unjust world. They saw him as something more, a man with a point, a man worth listening to. Marcus turned, scanning the room. He met the gazes of Wall Street executives, foreign dignitaries, high society figures draped in pearls and silk. People who, under normal circumstances, would never have considered his struggle for more than a fleeting second. And yet here they were, nodding, contemplating. From one of the corner tables, a woman, her diamond bracelet glinting in the chandelier's glow, leaned toward her husband and whispered, just loud enough to be heard, "Maybe he's right." And then from the back of the restaurant, a voice rang out, sharp and sure, "Support Barron! Support President Trump!" And just like that, the tide turned. The applause grew louder. Voices lifted in agreement, some cheering, some murmuring in hushed excitement. Marcus glanced back at Barron, something unreadable in his expression. And Barron. He simply sat there, the flicker of a knowing smirk playing at the corner of his lips, watching as the moment unfolded exactly as he knew it would. Do you think conversations like this can truly change perspectives? Let's discuss in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more thought-provoking stories that challenge narratives and inspire change. Turn on notifications so you never miss a powerful moment like this one. Join the conversation. Share your thoughts. Because sometimes the most unexpected dialogues lead to the greatest understanding.